Welcome everyone to the industrial breakout session, Meet the Buyer. Apologies for starting a little bit late, although it looks like people are still trickling in, so hopefully we give folks enough time to make their way over. So as I said, this is the breakout session for Meet the Buyer Industrial. I'd like to welcome everyone. My name is John Ciasulli. I'm the Vice President of Transformation for Centerfield. I'll be hosting. And with me, I have Trevor Mecham, who hopefully you'll get to know pretty well and learn a little bit about over the next 45 minutes. Just a couple points on process. I know John mentioned during the keynote, but we do have a poll, so please do feel free to check those questions out when you get a chance. And if you do have any questions, I'll be monitoring both the chat and the Q&A and do my best to juggle all of that. So feel free to submit questions as we go, and I'll do my best to make sure I get to all of them. With that, the focus of this session and the goal is to help paint a picture as to how we think about the buying and the selling of the industrial world and connecting those two sides of the market. And with us to help do that today is Trevor. So welcome, and please feel free to introduce yourself.
Awesome. Thanks so much, John. Thanks everybody for allowing us to be here in Centerfield. Super excited to actually be here and have a good, just a good cup of conversation. My name is Trevor Mecham. I am the Vice President of Global Technology and Strategy and Industry Relations for Valmont Industries. I know that's a mouthful. I'm working on that a little bit, but basically my role is to kind of look at a lot of technology, whether that's internally for our manufacturing, a lot of, as well as the innovation looking outside of what we do in terms of looking at different solutions, whether that be software, hardware, and how we back them into our current portfolio as it exists today. As far as how I got into the industry, I've been in the industrial side of the business for the last 22-ish years. I grew up 3 generations of potato farming in Idaho, actually. And then a lot of the emerging technologies that started that in about mid-late 90s, and agriculture is how I got started with all sorts of different hardware and software, specifically out of Menlo Park, Silicon Valley, and just watch that all that techie stuff just kind of emerge into dirt and iron and industrial applications over the last 100 years. So spent a lot of time with larger companies that you might be familiar with Case New Holland, John Deere, a lot of them that spend a lot of time building heavy equipment, heavy machinery, and then also doing a lot on their precision solutions, telemetry side, ran several divisions in that particular area. To date, where I am located in Omaha, Nebraska, recently moved over from Chicago, having a stint and spending time and learning a lot more about data analytics and artificial intelligence with a good friend of mine hosting here with John. As a part of that, so which contributed a lot to where I am as it exists today, and so very excited to be here, and yeah, looking forward to this.
Awesome, thanks, Trevor. And to kick things off, maybe on the softer side, one of the core values of Centerfield is giving back, and so as a part of this, you had the opportunity to pick a charity that we would make a donation to on your behalf. Maybe tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll dive into the nitty gritty.
Absolutely. So again, thank you so much for that, and the donation is a part of that. Omaha Rapid Response is who I actually chose. They're an organization here locally that's very close to us, not just as Valmont, but just in the state of Nebraska. They do a lot on just natural disasters, sometimes man-made disasters as well, but a lot of flooding. Most recently in 2019, large flood through the Midwest that there was broke a lot of levees, a lot of homes, a lot of farms, a lot of businesses really just got swept away. So, and they were here to do a lot of that repair work and volunteer, but they're also very global. They've been all over the world and contributing. So a lot of great individuals that have come together. So that's the charity that I've chosen as a part of that.
That's awesome. It sounds like a pretty great cause. Certainly one to get behind. So with that, let's just tee up the first question and get started. In your role running technology strategy, you obviously have a very wide breadth, whether it be software or equipment or solutions. So you can go any direction you want with this question. But what are some of the industrial products, physical products, equipment, and then maybe platforms or technologies? A couple examples that you that come to mind as a recent purchase or a recent acquisition that you've made in your role?
Sure. So I would say, some of the things that we do here, and maybe just a hint of a background of who Valmont is. It was established by Bob Doherty in 1954. It was really a machine shop, and so he bought it for around $5,000, and it was really to take irrigation pipe and mechanize it. And what that was, it was a water drive system. It was very clunky, didn't really work a lot, to be quite honest, but a lot of iterations, and a lot of that came with CNC machines, learning how to roll steel. Heavy equipment is a part of that. Is a part of that. What we do here is in building that out. Interestingly enough, now that go out there, and many of you, if you've taken trips and you fly over and you see big circles in the field, those are not, those crop circles are a little bit different than what people think of crop circles. They're actually pivots that are going around watering them. And also the other application that was interesting that we found was, in very early on stages, is if you tip that up vertically, it makes a great lamppost, a great light post, great for lighting in traffic, great cellular pole, all of those kind of things. So that's really where we saw the diversification between infrastructure and agriculture in those two industrial spaces. And so we build all of that with several factories all over the world. We also do a lot of galvanizing as well. So, and that's really to withstand elements, the weather, over years and years. And so we have a lot of heavy machinery for stamping, for welding, and then a lot of that we're trying to automate a bit more. And the hardware that we use is got some robotics that are tied to it, but the software and how we're able to see when there are wear points, stress points, being able to know with the machinery that we use in tooling and bits changes and welding tips. There's a lot that we desire in software that we can really kind of bring out to be able to start automating and extrapolating the data, making it very simple to understand and knowing when to repair it, so we have a lot of less downtime.
That's great. Certainly very detailed, and I think alluding to maybe some more depth a little bit later as we tee off a couple of these other questions. More tactically, as you think about whether it's the physical equipment and these CNC machines or software that runs them, how does an organization like Valmont or your department in general make these purchasing decisions, both kind of process and then ultimately, the things that you use to make that decision?
Well, a lot of it is based off of the endurance or the quality in terms of what we really, when you look at kind of as I discussed before, the tooling and the wear, and we're looking for a lot of the quality, and quite honestly, the really within the people that we have in these factories and line in all around. We're looking at the people and how we make their day better. Just simply put, how are we trying to simplify their work as a part of it? How are we trying to do more automation? Those are some of the things that we're looking at is in the environment that we're in, and in a lot of what we're building in the industrial space. We're really trying to figure out a better way of making their life a little bit easier, and really trying to understand better processes for them. And also within kind of the areas of safety, we look at that as well. That's a big key thing for us, just simply because we're dealing with heavy equipment, heavy machinery. So is there data that we can extrapolate, define, and figure out better processes to have better safety within our work environment? Because we're measured on those things. We report those incidences, we have to. And so when we look at the software and data that can help manage those things for our employees, that's really how we're ultimately looking at how we're deciding to buy, or work with or partner or collaborate on different levels with different types of software and hardware.
That makes sense. So would it be fair to say that you kind of start with a people-driven process? Like, what does our team need? How do we make our team as efficient and as safe and as effective as possible, and then kind of go up from there?
It is. I mean, when you think about the amount of scalability that we actually have as an organization, we run, around the clock shifts as a part of it inside our manufacturing operations. And mind you, this is in, This is 82 different facilities across the world. So beyond just how we're looking at it and starting with the people, we're looking at collaborative ways that we can optimize our practices at each location, right? Because all of this has to roll back up and to make sure that we're providing the right efficiencies so that we can continue to grow as an organization, have the right efficiencies in place for managing different applications, because the way things are built here aren't always the same way that they're built in Brazil and vice versa. So we're looking at those seamless interactions that we can continue to maintain consistency as we bring in more people and have to educate them and train them. Those are a lot of things that we kind of have to pay attention to, because these are the people that are still, as an essential business, you see what we do in infrastructure for all of us in communities and where we live and where we grow food. We have to make sure that it's a simple way to learn and apply technology, and we need that instantaneous feedback often as well.
Yeah, I think given the kind of global nature of the business, that could be very challenging, specifically as it relates to just understanding the return on that investment, right? Because once you get to a point where you're trying to make a purchasing decision, I have to imagine the ROI ultimately is going to be a big part of that decision. So, maybe as a follow-up, how do you think about, what drives that ROI and, ultimately then drives that purchasing decision, whether it be life of the investment or data or whatever it might be. Maybe you can expand on how you ultimately make those decisions and what you need to do that as a buyer.
Sure. So I would say, ultimately, how we're looking at making a lot of that decisions, yes, it does have a lot to do with the ROI, and also the scalability. The one thing that we realize is there's got to be, and we do understand this, and even though it seems like this industry, and from an industrial space, is very manually driven in process, but yet there is so much advancement and automation that comes behind this. There is, scalability is huge for us. It's being able to understand that we realize there's other iterations that are going to be, but what we don't want to be in a position of is this is one thing that immediately then drops, and then you have something new to have to migrate into. That's a lot of people and a lot of resource management that you have to that you end up getting into. So ultimately, we want to see and invest with partners that allow us to be able to have a planned path for success, right? Really kind of future-proofing and understanding that if you have technology and data that allows you to say, this is a better way to manage and run optimization in machinery and equipment, whether it's simple diagnostics and diagnostics tools and showing that, but there is an additional piece that you can then say, hey, when you are graduating to this phase, this is another lever to pull that allows you to optimize and get more efficiencies. It's kind of future-proofing your existence in this space rather than having to go back and relearn and retrack and resubmit any kind of bids or proposals or anything, right? It's giving me a little bit of the future and understanding where you're headed. That's kind of educating us, and we're open to that, right? This is, for us as an industrial provider of what we do all over the world, we're really open to understanding that, because we realize there's things that maybe we just don't know. Right, but we want to find those kind of partners that are able to kind of show us that path.
It's interesting what I'm hearing you say, kind of in two different directions. One is these products, or whether they be software or equipment, almost have kind of levels that you want to utilize. It's that initial maybe form, fit, and function, and then as maybe your processes evolve, does it also have data that I can take off and understand predictive maintenance or uptime? And then beyond that, is their ability to control. And so there's almost, an evolution to how you would utilize the product. That's one of the things I'm kind of hearing you say. Is that maybe fair? You want to expand on that?
It is. It is absolutely one of those things, John. And simply because of the fact that, there's a lot of ramp up time when you're starting to learn a trade, a skill, anything like that. Right, it's in learning software, and we feel we have great education, great training programs as a part of it. But we we want to be able to just kind of rinse and repeat that process. The other thing is you have a lot of people here. I mean, at Valmont, over 10,000 employees, and really we also have divisions. And so there's a bit of bunker busting, as I would describe it, that we have to do, because what's good for one area, we potentially sometime while walking across the hall might be the easiest form. It's like a lot of this doesn't translate in getting into that other areas of opportunity that we know have scale and have the same probably functions or needs. So while we look at these plays of the areas specifically where we're at in infrastructure and agriculture primarily, we want to be able to see how we can collaborate and benefit with basically saying, I've got an investment within a software company that allows us to do more automation and process automation within a factory. Hey, have you thought about this over in McCook, Nebraska, where where there's other opportunities across the way that is a solution? Because the way that we build things for specifically within one segment doesn't always necessarily mean it's in the same segment. So how is there adaptability or interoperability within scaling software and or data that allows us to kind of replicate those or emulate those kind of successes that might be there?
It's interesting because we've talked a little bit about kind of safety and more of a people-driven solutioning process. We've also talked a little bit about the business case, but we got a great question in the chat around sustainability. We really haven't covered that at all. Although I have to imagine it's probably a significant contributor to decision making, especially nowadays. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about how that affects that planning and strategic process.
Absolutely. So sustainability within our organization is paramount. Without question, it is probably closest to not only for our CEO and our objectives as an organization, as a publicly traded company, but it's also, as I describe, in a tactical, practical piece of our business, which simply means that when we look at sustainability or ESG or however you want to propose an acronym of economic, social, and governance out there, we're looking at the safety standards at the highest level, especially around the sustainability. Is what are the how can we lessen carbon footprint, emissions, all of those things that we're really taking to produce, a better, more efficient use of energy, better use efficient of using water with our products as a part of it. Part of our divisions of infrastructure are utilities. It is solar. It is all of these other things. So there's a lot of product and technology and innovation in those areas of what we're trying to bring in a more succinct way of sustainable practices, so that if we can get to more automation, and it's not just about the sustainability efforts of what we're doing environmentally, it's also about the sustainability of jobs that we're trying to create with this automation, right?
So all things being equal, if you were looking at kind of two paths, the opportunity of increasing environmental protection and sustainability in your processes would drive you in that direction 10 times out of 10 is what I'm hearing you say.
Absolutely.
Perspective.
Yeah, it has to be, right? I mean, the partners that we have as a part of our organization, we have to be very much in lock and step with a lot of them who are also producing these kind of efforts. And so we definitely are a company that aligns ourselves with not only providing that, and we score ourselves on this, but we also roll that up as a part of our efforts as well. I mean, our Valmont is known for really, at the end of the day, is conserving resources, improving life. That is what we live by at the end of the day, right? So when you think about what that really means, there is nothing but sustainability that goes around those efforts in terms of what we're building in roads and bridges and and in agriculture and in the fields.
I think this actually fits nicely maybe into the next question, another one submitted in the chat, so I'll kind of jump to that.
Sure.
For those that maybe don't have the context, when Trevor mentioned that we had worked together, we actually worked together at a startup that we scaled and grew over time. So this question is near and dear to my heart. But as you're sourcing vendors and providers for any number of different solutions, but in this question specifically raw materials and inputs, how do you vet a business that is potential supplier or potential partner? Maybe what are those key steps in the purchasing process, and maybe key factors in moving forward with a new vendor, a new provider?
I would say the number one, at least from my tenure here and a part of seeing this, Valmont specifically, is really understanding and knowing our space. That is the one biggest thing in really kind of understanding. There are a lot of great, unique things that are out there, but often at times it can be, square peg, round hole. And we want to have a collaborative experience as a part of it, so that when we are here, we're here with purpose, to meet with new vendor suppliers, and really truly understand our market and where we serve best and where we can grow and potentially grow together with somebody who is, really looking at the opportunity to have a partnership. That is without question kind of one of those things that we really we have to get into the weeds on as a part of it, because we want to be able to collaborate with new ideas, and it's okay to bring out fresh ideas in different ways. We're open to that as a part of it, but we also want to know that 75 years of success of what Valmont has actually done has been pretty good. We're the majority market shareholder in our two segments that we really thrive on, and so we want to be able to just make sure that the partnership fits right as well. At the end of the day, a lot of these partnerships are built on these kind of collaborative events and collaboration between two organizations. And so we want to just ensure that we want to sit down with somebody and really trying to see, learn, and understand what they know about our business and kind of our objectives and goals and where we're moving forward, just from an industry perspective.
Got it. So it's almost like an evaluation process for not only the quality of whatever it is that's being supplied, but also just the potential understanding of the Valmont use case, whatever that might be. I know we're speaking generically, but does that resonate with you?
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing greater than to be able to sit across the table from somebody who has an interest in what we're doing and trying to gain and understand even more of what even if you don't know the whole industry as a part of it, but being able to have some insight into really kind of directionally where we are as an organization, what we do and facilitate in in our areas of growth. That's going to be an extremely important thing to really try to understand, and so at least we feel like there's a bigger engagement there, right? What we do understand and know is that products, whether it be raw materials, whether it be technology, however you want to look at it, we realize they evolve, they change. They don't always work at its biggest capacity, right? This is why pilot programs were invented and test use cases were invented. And we have a lot of those that we facilitate ourselves around the world because we understand the evolution of what this really is in our business. But I think the biggest thing is really kind of understanding what that business is. That's just really going to resonate.
It's funny that you said sit across the table from someone, because one of the questions I had teed up for us was just how has the shift in the way business gets done in the last 12 months, since early 2020, how has that affected the way you not only run your operations but make purchasing decisions? And maybe you can kind of answer those separately, starting with how has it just affected sourcing and purchasing?
Difficult. One word is it's been difficult.
Okay, let's get 2 words.
It's been difficult, but one that we realize we have had to just kind of keep our head on a swivel, adapt, and prevail. I mean, that's just what it has been. We have a lot of customers who, are in the rural elements, the rural environments. This is where they succeed and live and breathe, right? I'll use agricultural as a use case. The growers, when 2020 happened and you went to the store as a consumer and you saw missing toilet paper, bread, milk, eggs, all of these things that literally, truly, you were just like, oh my gosh, where is everything, right? This had a ripple effect for all of us who produce irrigation pipe that water your crops, right? So whether you know it or not, or you know anything about farming, if you eat, you're in farming. That's just the way it works, right? I mean, all of you, but everybody started thinking more about that and what happened with this. Supply chain is one thing that really impacted our business, and we had to learn to adapt into a more remote way of doing business. I'd say it had made it more difficult, but it also just due to the distance, because in the industrial space, and John, you know this as well, it is a relational business. It is an industry that's been built on hundreds of years, right? Relations are established where people buy products in iron on relational value, on at least from our space as a part of that. And so we've had to kind of reshift our presence in ways of, even with supply relationships as a part of it, in remote ways that just it's made us more, I would say, without saying agile, but it has made us more agile, but at the same time in adopting in more agile ways, but at the same time it has made us more efficient as well. It's forced us to look at things a little bit through the same lens in a little bit different way, because a lot of the materials that we source and everything, it's been more difficult. Lead times have been more difficult and that's not just for our business, that's been for everybody. You can kind of see it as the market fluctuates out there as well. But we've had to be more adaptable, more accepting. Resource people wise, right? Is you've seen kind of as industry and social and economic change and shift, people have had to adapt as well. And define what is really the essential business. Well, do you want your lights on? That's kind of essential. Do you want to have heat and air conditioning? That's essential. Do you want to water crops? That's essential. Our people have not stopped since that. We've had to then take different processes internally into our factory. We can no longer have people standing over the sides of them training. We've had to resort to AR and VR application, different product application, but also different processes design that normally, people that are there for weeks, we've literally not been able to be there other than in a virtual presence, which has forced us to change our practice and our process and the adoption of different innovations that we found are much more efficient than what we've been in the past.
Trevor, as a technologist, I think, it'll be interesting to hear your perspective, but how much further down that technology adoption curve do you think you are now relative to where you would have been? So said differently, you're using AR to do training, you're using these kind of virtual collaboration tools. How many more years of kind of traditional processes do you think you would have gone through before you would have gotten to this point, had it not been instigated by this pretty terrible global event?
At least anywhere from 5 to 10 years. And I was
forced to accelerate adoption by almost a decade.
If you know industrial, okay, and again, it doesn't matter what segment that you're coming from, you realize that it is slow to adopt. Now, I mean that in a sense that there are great innovators out there, right? And you have to, again, this is about knowing the space. So talking to anybody who's looking at these opportunities, right? Farmers have been startups themselves every year. If you think about it, farming is a startup every year. They have to learn to adapt. They have to be, they have to be the economist. They have to be the welder. They have to be the strategist. They have to be the buyer. They have to be all of these things, no different, as a part of it. We have to resonate and synchronize ourselves with those kind of people in the industry. And this made it even harder to be in that lock and step with them, which pushed us in the industrial space. It's not a quick decision that we make as consumers going, oh, a new widget, a new phone that's going to come out and get updated. And that's not this space, right? It literally takes, a year, 2 years to make, changes. And what we found ourselves doing is we can move things in 12 months quicker than we thought we ever could. Yeah. Right? It created more.
Dovetails nice.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So I think this dovetails nicely to another question in the chat. So I'll just kind of tag it on. But
yeah,
do you do most of this kind of innovation and planning strategy in-house with a dedicated team, or are you utilizing consultants and experts and third parties as you put these roadmaps together?
So it is the combination, but I'll tell you kind of personal, person looking in and coming from different industries while still staying in the industrial space, kind of outside DNA looking in. We look at things from core that is very core to us, right? I'm not going to pretend, or nor does Valmont pretend to be something we're not in terms of, are we resident experts? We have engineering, we do design, software design. We do have teams, product engineers, support engineers. We do have teams of that, and we do build a lot of things, right? Because we build industrial equipment as a part of our profession. It does not mean that I have the best, data science team stacked over here in the side corner. I don't, right? We look at technology, we look at consulting firms to come in and kind of educate us on different things of where is the puck gonna be? What should we be looking for? What are the pitfalls? Absolutely, we have an openness to that because there are certain things that when we look at, we say, do we develop, do we partner, do we buy? Right? That's just kind of our model.
And circling back, I mean, how open are you to a supplier sharing their roadmap and their vision for as you use it, where the puck is going and collaborating? Because I imagine a lot of different people have very different perspectives, and in the position you're in, you probably get to see, across all of those different views of the world.
Yeah. So you mean sharing theirs or sharing our roadmap with them? Is that what you're kind of?
Both. I mean, I was alluding to the vision of the supplier and how that might influence your business, 1, 5, 10 years. But just roadmap and long-term collaboration in general.
I've never thought that it was always the thing is you can create a pie in the sky methodology of a product roadmap or a proof of model right out there as you would look at things. You understand where that's coming from. The thing is, you need to have a certain layer of education, meaning as a supply partner, I need to give you some of the detail and the depth to understand that. I mean, anybody could probably say, oh yeah, I can give you that and give you pie in the sky and say in a world and write you the next movie trailer in about 1 minute and 20 seconds. But that's not the point. The point is I need to give you something for you to, really paint reality of saying, this is where I know beyond my market understanding of where it's headed. This is the applications that make sense today and where they're going to head for tomorrow. So there is a great effort of collaboration because that's what we really genuinely, if you want to move the bar, that's where we have to work together.
Got it. One more question from the chat, and then I'll tee up the last one we have for the two of us. So as a new business entering the industrial space as a supplier, and the example in the question is for raw materials, but just in general, how does a supplier stand out and get your attention? What do they have? What do they bring to the table, whether it be materials or expertise or capabilities? What really gets your attention in 2021?
What gets my attention from that side is associate it with the industry that exists today and show me the connection point, right? It is show me the abilities of where it's been that it's not been in the industrial space as it exists today. An example that I can glean on and start to expand my our think tank, our skunk works, our process as a part of it. Something that I can hold on to that resonates, that is right? It may not be exactly, but the thing is, yes, we like to move in the space of innovation in the industrial areas that might be adjacent, but still in our space. But we need to, for me, I would say, show me an example, of where it succeeded outside the industrial space that allows you to kind of, embark in this area. And then how do we leverage that? That's really, we take that approach.
Got it. So would it be fair to say that the more you understand about the application, how it connects to your business, how it can be automated, the data that it provides, just the value case study, the more likely you are to engage with that supplier and maybe pilot or trial or work with them long term?
Absolutely.
So with about 5 minutes left, I want to thank everyone who's been asking questions, and hopefully we've answered them sufficiently. Teeing up the last one for you, Trevor.
Yeah.
What are you most excited about, whether it be kind of innovation or just different ways of doing business, that you wish you had that you don't have today from suppliers? What are you seeing from vendors and suppliers that you're excited about that you kind of wish you had more of?
I wish I had more automation, and I wish I had more data to extrapolate from our products as it exists today. Again, it's hard to make dumb iron smart. I don't know how else to say that, right? You're trying to create an iron that has intelligence built into it with a global reach, whether it's to the end user, whether it's to our dealer networks, or so other partners that we partner with out there. And you've seen our products all over the world. Okay, if you run Verizon and AT&T and everyone else, those towers, that's Valmont. At the end of the day, the tech, that's that's the cellular providers. For us, it is really understanding what are the automation, the automation and how we can show, better data, not so much the quantity, but the quality of that data, and how does it mean something. I think that's the biggest thing that we really kind of look at is how are we connecting those things internally and externally and feeding that back to say, hey, then this can tie external to our audience of where we commercialize things, but also back into our manufacturing processes. That's the thing that is most that I'm looking forward to, we just need more automation to that, more decision-making capabilities of software as a part of our evolution of innovation and adopting.
That's obviously some pretty good advice, and I think thematically consistent as we've gone through a number of questions, just understanding the data and the value and how solutions tie together and can be tied together. If I had to summarize kind of the foundation of our conversation. That's all I had teed up. I want to thank you for making time for us all today. Hopefully this was educational for those that attended. In closing, I know that your information is available on the Content Hub if you click on Trevor's speaker profile. Is there anything else you want to share, how they maybe can get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm available. LinkedIn, I'm available on LinkedIn, IM me on that side, connect with me there. I check it often and always as a part of it. So that's a good place as well. And then just to kind of get more understanding, go to Valmont.com, take a look at our different business segments as a part of it, see what we're really into. We could cover a whole lot more if we had more time for sure on that side. So definitely appreciate Centerfield, appreciate you guys. John, thank you so much for thinking of me. I'm grateful to be here. So this has been fantastic. So yeah, thank you very much.
Pleasure was mine for sure. Thanks everyone for attending. And again, looking forward to talking again soon, but take care all.
All right. Appreciate it.